Read People Like a Book by Patrick King. Every person has a certain pattern of thinking and behavior. If we learn to recognize this pattern, it becomes much easier to understand and predict someone's intentions, emotions, and decisions. These patterns are influenced by their past experiences, emotional needs, and mental states. This means that a person is the result of their past life experiences. If we pay attention to someone's behavior and understand why they are doing it, we can predict their future actions. Suppose a friend of yours always gets angry very quickly over small things. You notice that whenever someone reminds him of any mistake he makes, he starts defending himself and adds to the argument. If you try to understand his personality, then his behavior may be related to his past life. Maybe he was scolded a lot as a child or made to feel that he never does things right. So now whenever someone catches him wrong, his brain reacts quickly with anger to save him. If you understand this pattern, you can predict how he will react the next time he is told he is wrong. In general, if you know someone who is always ready to help everyone, even if they have their own problems, it could mean that he sees his own value in the happiness of others. Maybe he has gone through some experiences in his life where he was loved and accepted only when he put the needs of others above his own. So now it has become a habit for him to help others even when he forgets himself. If you can recognize this pattern, you will understand why he does this over and over again, and you will also know that he will behave the same way in the future. Another way to understand human behavior is to see the difference between what he says and what he does. Many times people say one thing, but their real intentions are something else. Suppose a colleague of yours always says that he does not care about other people's opinions. But whenever someone criticizes him, he gets upset for weeks. This means that his words and his true thoughts are not the same. He wants to show himself as if he does not care, but in fact the opinions of others affect him a lot. If you understand this pattern, you will know in advance that the next time someone criticizes him, he will get upset again. When analyzing human behavior, we also have to see how he reacts in different situations. For example, a person is very funny and open with his friends but becomes very quiet and serious at work. This may mean that he is very good at adapting to the environment. But if a person behaves the same everywhere, such as always being very serious or always joking, then this means that his behavior is related to his inner personality and not just the environment. Many times people adopt a fake personality to impress others, but if you watch their behavior carefully, you will be able to recognize their real personality. Suppose a person always tries to show that he is very confident, but when he is asked a difficult question, he feels uncomfortable and tries to dodge. This means that his confidence may be just a show. If you learn to recognize such patterns, you will know who is really like him and who is just pretending. Our behavior patterns are also linked to our emotional needs. Some people have a need to be proven right all the time, so they never admit their mistakes. Some people always need attention, so they repeatedly do things to get people's attention. Some people like to control others, so they try to dominate everything. If you understand which needs of a person are the most important, then you can also predict how he will behave. Now think about it. If you know someone who always puts himself first in a group, then this shows his need to get the most attention. Now, if someone else starts talking more in his place, there is a chance that he will feel uncomfortable and will try to draw everyone's attention to himself in any way. If you can recognize this pattern, you will have no difficulty understanding how he will react in the future. Another way to understand behavior patterns is to analyze people's decisions. Whenever someone makes a big decision, it depends not only on the immediate situation, but also on his past experiences, fears, and desires. Suppose a person rejects every new opportunity because he feels that there is a risk of failure. Maybe this fear is related to his old life, where he took a big risk and failed, so he wants to avoid all kinds of risks now. If you can recognize such a pattern, then you can predict in advance that that person will avoid taking risks in the future. Similarly, if a person always grabs all opportunities quickly and makes hasty decisions, then this can also be a pattern. Maybe he has learned in his life that grabbing opportunities quickly is the key to success. So he is always ready to accept new opportunities without thinking much. Understanding the patterns of people's behavior not only helps us to know about them, but also helps us to improve our relationships. If you can understand the reasons behind the behavior of your friend, partner, or colleague, you will be able to be more patient with them and be able to build better relationships with them. Finally, it is important to understand that no two people are the same. People change over time, but their changes also occur within a pattern. If you can recognize this pattern of change, you will also be able to understand where a person is moving in his life and what his next steps might be. So if you want to understand people better, don't just listen to what they say. Instead, observe their behavior carefully. Understand their past experiences, their desires, their fears, and their needs. When you can do this, you will not only learn to read people, but also become sad when you guess their future decisions. Most of us think that to understand someone, we should only pay attention to their words. But the truth is that body language and facial expressions are more powerful than words. Sometimes people say something, but their true meaning is revealed in their expressions. If we learn to read someone's body language and facial expressions correctly, we can understand their true emotions, even if they say something else. Suppose you ask your friend if he is okay, and he replies, "Yes, I am." But if his voice is slightly lowered, his eyes are slightly lowered, and his eyebrows are drooping, does that mean he is really okay? Maybe not. His words say one thing, but his body is saying something else. That is why we should pay attention to people's expressions and body language instead of relying only on words. Facial expressions give the most effective signals, because a person's true emotions are quickly revealed on the face. When someone is happy, their eyes sparkle. There is a slight smile on their lips, and their mouth looks open. On the other hand, when someone is sad, their eyes look heavy, their eyebrows are slightly lowered, and their lips look firm. Fear, anger, surprise, or worry. Each emotion has a different expression, and if we learn to understand this, we can guess the state of mind of anyone. Now imagine a colleague in your office who always says that he has no problem with anyone. But whenever a particular person enters the room, his body language changes. His face becomes a little stiff. His eyes try to avoid eye contact, and his hands unconsciously become fists. This will not take long for you to understand that he actually has some problem with that person, even though he denies it verbally. Other body language signals include a person's posture and expression. For example, when a person is interested in something, his body leans forward. His eyes are focused on the person or object, and his eyebrows are slightly raised. But if someone is upset, their back will be tilted back. Their eyes will wander from side to side, and their hands may be resting somewhere, which suggests that they are just passing the time. Now think about it if you are talking to someone, and they are constantly fidgeting with their feet, looking at their watch, or checking their phone repeatedly. What does this mean? It could be that the person is restless or not very interested in the conversation. These small signals can tell us what the person in front of them is really feeling. Many times people try to hide their emotions, but their bodies still give off some signals. For example, when someone is lying, they usually try to avoid eye contact. They may touch their nose or mouth repeatedly, or their voice may change slightly. If you can pick up on these signals, you will be able to tell when someone is telling the truth and when someone is not. However, it is also important to understand that it is not right to jump to conclusions based on any one signal. Someone's eyes are lowered, which does not necessarily mean that they are sad. They may just be tired. Someone has folded their arms. This does not mean that they are angry with you. They may be feeling cold. So we always have to take the situation into account. If a person is constantly defensive during a conversation, we need to see if this is part of their nature or if they are doing it in a particular situation. Also, when reading body language, we need to look at clusters of different signals. It is not right to draw a conclusion from just one signal. For example, if a person is standing with their arms folded, it does not mean that they are rude or angry. But if their eyebrows are drawn together, their lips are slightly tight, and their body is slightly leaning back, then these signals together can show that the person is actually feeling annoyed or defensive about something. Here's another example. Suppose a person is talking to you and occasionally smiles, but there is no joy in their eyes. Their smile is limited to their lips. Their eyes look a little tired, and they are repeatedly touching their neck. This could mean that he is smiling for show but is feeling upset or uncomfortable on the inside. This skill of reading people is very useful not only in personal relationships, but also in professional life. Suppose you are in a meeting and your boss says that he wants your project report liked, but instead of happiness, his face shows a slight annoyance, and his hands are lying lifeless on the table. This could mean that he is just going through the motions, but in reality, he is not happy with the report. If you can catch this signal, you can improve the report in time and make a better impression in the future. Another great advantage of reading body language and facial expressions is that it helps us to check someone's honesty. Suppose a person tells you that he did nothing wrong, but when he speaks, there's a hesitation in his voice. He rolls his eyes repeatedly, and his fingers rub against each other. These signals can tell that he is not telling the whole truth. Reading language is an art, and it comes with practice. If you start paying attention to people's gestures and facial expressions in your daily life, you will gradually start to understand what each signal means. In the end, it is important to understand that every person is different, and the best way to read someone's body language is to first pay attention to their general habits. If a person is usually very energetic but is suddenly seen sitting quietly, it can be a sign that something is wrong. Similarly, if a person who is always calm suddenly starts acting very emotional, it can also be unusual. When you start paying attention to these small things, you will start to guess what the person is really feeling, even if they say something different. This will not only increase your ability to understand, but also help you communicate better and more effectively with others. There is a reason behind everything that everyone does. Some people work hard because they want to succeed. Some save because they have a future in mind. Some help others because it makes them happy, and some lie because they want to avoid danger. If we understand what makes a person happy and what makes them afraid, we can predict how they will behave in the future. In fact, every person has two major motivational drivers: to be happy and to avoid pain. That is, people do what makes them feel good, or to save them from pain. If you observe someone's behavior closely, you will begin to understand what they are drawn to and what they avoid. This is important because when you understand someone's motivation, you can also predict what decisions they will make in the future. Suppose you have two colleagues in your office. One always works hard, takes on extra work, and tries to learn from his mistakes. The other always wants to work less, avoids taking risks, and avoids new responsibilities. Why is there such a big difference in the behavior of these two? The first person gets happy from success. Maybe he wants a promotion, or he wants to create an identity for himself through his work. He feels that if he works hard, he will get the happiness he wants. On the other hand, the second person is afraid of failure. He doesn't want to make mistakes. He wants to avoid criticism, and so he doesn't take any steps that will cause problems for him later. If you understand motivation, you can also predict how they will behave when they are given a new project. The first person will take it with enthusiasm, while the second one may make excuses or try to take less responsibility. Now imagine that you suggest a friend to start going to the gym. If he is motivated by happiness motivation, he may think that going to the gym will improve his fitness. He will feel good and his personality will shine. If he is motivated by the motivation to escape from suffering, he may think that by going to the gym, he will be able to avoid diseases, will not have the problem of obesity, and will be away from health-related problems in the future. Both of them can go to the gym, but their reasons will be different. One will see happiness in it, and the other will see it as a way to escape from danger. Similarly, if a person always gets angry very quickly, it is important to understand that his anger and some motivation are related to him. Maybe he had to prove himself repeatedly in his childhood, and now he tries to prove himself right in every argument so that he does not have to go through that struggle again. Or maybe he is very worried about his self-esteem, and whenever he feels that someone is lowering his dignity, he reacts with anger. If you understand the reason behind his anger, then you will also understand in which situations he will get angry and how to calm him down. Fear of people also affects their behavior. Some people are very careful about their image in society because they are afraid of rejection. Such people always make sure that they wear the right clothes, say the right things, and avoid making any social mistakes. On the other hand, some people are very careful with money because they are afraid of poverty. Such people always focus on savings. They avoid spending too much and never spend money on unnecessary things. If you have the advantage of understanding what a person is afraid of, then you will be able to guess his instructions. Suppose a friend of yours is always very cautious in relationships. He does not trust anyone quickly. He is not very open, and he thinks a lot before entering into a new relationship. Fear is a very good way to break an old relationship, and now he doesn't want to endure that pain again. So he judges everything carefully before starting a relationship, so that he doesn't get hurt again. If you can understand that his behavior is to avoid pain, then you will also understand what to do to give him confidence. Similarly, some people focus a lot on showing off. They always buy expensive things, give good pictures of themselves on social media, and show off their success. If you look at their motivation, there is a game of happiness and pain in this too. Maybe they are happy with praise and recognition, so they create their lifestyle in such a way that people praise them. Or maybe they are afraid that if they look ordinary, people will underestimate them. To avoid this fear, they always try to show their status high. Now think about it. If you are doing a deal with a customer, wouldn't it be important to know what kind of things he is impressed with? What if a customer buys that thing that will make him happy? Then you have to tell how much your product will make his life better. But if a customer only wants to avoid losses, then you have to explain that if he does not buy this product, what losses will he suffer? Don't look at children. When a child studies, he either thinks that he will get good marks and will be praised, or he does it because he will be punished if he fails. In other words, his motivation is either happiness or avoidance of suffering. If parents understand which motivation motivates their child more, then they can encourage him to study in the right way. Our decisions are based on this motivation. A person may take a new job because he will get more money, happiness, or because he is bored with his old job, avoidance of suffering. A person may get married because he needs a partner, happiness, or because he is afraid of loneliness, avoidance of suffering. If you understand that someone's life is being driven by something, if you don't want to be happy or avoid suffering, you can predict their next steps. You can see how they will behave in certain situations, what decisions they will make, and what things will influence them the most. When you start to understand people at this level, your own ability to communicate and build relationships becomes very strong. Every person's needs are different, but if you pay attention, you will see that these needs follow a certain order. Some people's biggest concern is making money, fulfilling their basic needs, while some people are more interested in love and relationships. Still others put their career, recognition, and self-esteem at the top. Understanding which level a person is at helps us know what things will motivate them the most and how they will behave. Psychologist Abraham Maslow created a hierarchy of needs to better explain this, called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It divides human needs into 5 levels. The lowest needs are the most basic, and as a person continues to fulfill these needs, they move to the next level. If you can identify where a person stands on this ladder, you can also understand what things will influence them the most and how they will make decisions in the future. The first level is physiological needs. This includes things like food, water, sleep, and basic comfort. If a person's basic needs are not met, their entire focus will be on these things. For example, if a person is unemployed and has no money, their biggest concern will be how to meet their income needs. They will not be concerned about things like relationships or self-esteem at this time, because their brain will first ensure that they can survive. Now imagine if a person is struggling to eat and you tell them that they should focus on self-development. Will they take it seriously? Maybe not, because his priority is now to satisfy his stomach hunger. That is why when we talk to someone, we should first see what level of needs he has. If a person is busy fulfilling his basic needs, it is important to understand his current situation before talking about any big motivation. The second level is the need for safety. This includes things like job stability, housing, health, and future security. If a person's physical needs are met, then now he wants stability in his life. For example, if a person is working but he is always afraid of losing his job, then his concern becomes security beyond money. He will make decisions that will give him more stability and security, even if he does not accept big opportunities. Now, if you see a person who feels very secure, you will notice that he will be more comfortable taking risks. But if a person always lives in fear, such as feeling that his job may go away at any time, or his house is not secure, then his behavior will be different. He will be cautious in his decisions, avoid change, and avoid any such things. There will be no more that will jeopardize his stability. The third level is social needs. When a person fulfills his basic and safety needs, he now starts looking for relationships, friendships, and social connections. He starts feeling that just having money security is not enough. He also needs someone to be with. At this level, people start giving more importance to relationships and try to make their place in society. Think about it. If a person is feeling lonely and you advise him to move forward in his career, he will not be very enthusiastic. His priority is no longer his career, but his feelings for someone. That is why when a person is at this level, his priorities revolve around his friends, family, and relationships. Now, if you see a person who always likes to spend time with people, it becomes easy to understand that he is at this level. He does not like to be alone, and his needs are related to those things that make him feel accepted. If he cannot fulfill the needs at this level, he will start feeling upset or uncomfortable. The fourth level is the need for self-esteem. When a person gets respect and recognition in his life, he starts to feel the need for recognition and respect. He now wants people to praise him, to acknowledge his success and see him as an important person. This is why some people are interested in showing off their achievements on social media, because it gives them respect and recognition. It is at this level that people work harder to advance in their careers. They learn new skills and try to prove their worth. If a person is at this level, the best way to motivate him would be to make him feel that he is valuable and his achievements are appreciated. If you see a person who always wants praise for his work, it could mean that he is at the level of self-esteem. He wants to hear that he has done well. because this is his motivation. The last and highest level is self-realization or self-actualization. When a person gets respect and recognition in his life, he starts trying to improve himself. He does not just chase after money, relationships, or acquaintances, but tries to save his life for a greater purpose. Such people want to use their abilities to the fullest and want to make some new contribution to society. They start taking interest in things like art, science, innovation, social service, and self-development. Now think, if a person is at this level and you tell him only about making money, it will not motivate him much because his priorities have now changed. He has started thinking not only about his own well-being, but also about society and the world. If you understand where a person stands on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then you can guess what things will influence him the most. If someone's needs are basic, he wants security and stability. If he is looking for relationships, he wants to be accepted. If he wants acquaintance, he wants appreciation. And if he is at the self-realization level, he wants something that can connect his life with a deeper purpose. When you start using this model in your working life, it will be easier for you to understand people. You can know who will be inspired by what, who will take what kind of instructions, and who can be inspired in what way. This not only strengthens your relationship, but also helps you to build a deeper understanding with people. Every person has an ego inside them that helps them feel good about themselves and maintain their self-esteem. Whenever something hurts our self-esteem or makes us feel insecure, our brain starts adopting some ways to save us from that pain. These ways are called defense mechanisms. They try to keep us mentally and emotionally safe, but many times we ourselves do not even realize that we are using them. If we recognize how a person is protecting his ego, then we can understand his true emotions and fears. Think if a person repeatedly ignores his mistakes and always blames others. So what does this mean? Maybe he is avoiding admitting his mistakes because it can hurt his self-esteem. He cannot even think that he can make mistakes, so his brain gives him an easy way to blame others. This is a defense mechanism called projection, where people start seeing their own weaknesses in others. Now suppose a person is very angry, but he tries to appear calm and collected. Whenever someone tells him that he is very angry, he immediately responds with, "I am not angry. You are very irritable yourself." This is also an example of projection, because he is not acknowledging his negative feelings but is imposing them on others. If you understand this pattern, you will be able to recognize that his real fear is that he is afraid to admit that he is an angry person. Many times people resort to rationalization or making excuses. This means that they make excuses for their mistakes, so that they do not feel bad. Suppose a person fails an exam and says, "I have nothing to do with it. It doesn't come. This test was useless anyway." In fact, it comes to him, but if he admits it, he will feel disappointed. So he starts to convince himself that the test was of no importance. In this way, he tries to save his ego. Another interesting defense mechanism is repression. In this, the person suppresses his painful experiences or feelings in his subconscious mind so that he doesn't have to suffer from them. Suppose a child was scolded a lot as a child, but when he grows up, he doesn't remember these words from his childhood. This is because his brain suppresses these bitter memories so deeply that they cannot come up. But these suppressed feelings can still affect his behavior. Maybe he's very afraid of criticism or always trying to prove himself. If we understand what things a person is suppressing in his mind, we can also know what real fears or suffering he is struggling with. Regression or acting like a child is also a common defense mechanism. In this, people start acting like they're old children to feel safe in a stressful situation. Many times when people are very upset, they suddenly start crying or start adopting some way that they used to when they were children. For example, if a person is under a lot of pressure at work and he starts getting angry or irritable over every little thing, then he may be using regression. His brain is taking him to that childhood state when he used to get attention and support through his anger. Many times, people resort to displacement or moving feelings elsewhere. In this, people do not express their real feelings to the person who is upset, but to someone else. Suppose a person comes home after being scolded by his boss at work, but he starts expressing that anger on his family or friends. His real anger is on the boss, but since he cannot dare to express his anger on the boss, his brain gives him an easy alternative. Some people who express anger towards a vulnerable person use sublimation or creative ways to transform their feelings, which is a positive defense mechanism in which the person transforms their negative feelings into creative or productive activities. For example, a person may be very angry, but if he expresses this anger through sports, exercise, or art, he can express it in a better way. Many artists, writers, and athletes use this mechanism to transform their feelings into creative activities. So friends, this was our book summary today. I hope you liked it. You can subscribe to the book. To listen to the summary till the end, you need to